And we welcome you back to another episode of the Bradley Women's Basketball Pregame Show, alongside my colleagues Brock Stoller and Ben Line-Newman. I'm Cameron Irwin, and boys, just like last time, we have a lot to discuss. Now, before we get into the last series of the season against Indiana State, we're going to recap the last game, a 79-59 loss to Illinois State. And Ben, we'll start with you. The good in that game, what did you see from the Bradley Braves?
Yeah, I mean, they actually did a lot good. You know, they had 11 offensive rebounds. They didn't turn the ball over that much. They were able to pass the ball around, get steals. The only thing they really couldn't do is they just couldn't score. You know, that's the main thing. And their defense needs some work. They allowed 41% from three, just something that is not going to win you games going to the conference tournament.
Yeah, you know, Ben mentioned the 11 offensive rebounds. It's been a big thing for Bradley this year is rebounding. They did a very good job attacking the glass, also keeping Illinois State off the glass. They kept their turnovers down. I mean, Gabby Hawk really paced Bradley in the first half. I thought really kept them in the game. Without her, I don't know where it would have been. I mean, other than that, Bradley they really struggled. I mean, Laisha Petrie not getting into the scoring column until the fourth quarter is never going to bode well for your team when you rely so much on her for scoring.
And you're most certainly right. Of course, she was the MVC preseason player of the year, but staying in that game, then you mentioned the offensive struggles. What were the problems there for the Bradley Braves?
They just really, I think Illinois State did a really good job defensively challenging every shot. They never really I never felt like Bradley had any open looks, and even if they did, they weren't capitalizing on those open looks. Emily Marsh inside really struggled. And Illinois State did a good job of keeping Bradley from getting easy looks inside and forcing them to take a lot of contested jump shots. And I really think when you have to take contested jump shots and you're not getting any easy points and seeing the ball go in the basket, that can be really tough for your confidence. So I think that's where it started to go wrong for Bradley.
Yeah, you know, like Brock said, they played really good defense, really limited their chances to score. You know, they only shot about 33% from the field. Julian Redmond had another good game. She's really about starting to solidify herself as the MVC player of the year, and just something that Braves need to work on.
And for Illinois State, they had 5 players in double figures last night. 4 of them were starters, so it's just a very balanced effort right now. You know, Mary Crompton had a very big second half. She's not really known as one of their better scorers, but really had a good game last night. Was 3 for 3 from 3 in the second half. Made big shots really throughout the game. So when you can get production like that from some of those lesser role players, that's going to bode very, very well for your team.
Now, Ben, I'm going to come back to you here. That loss, you know, one more series left to play, 2 games, that's coming up against Indiana State. What does this loss against Illinois State mean to this Bradley team?
I mean, it's a big loss, you know. Positioning in this conference tournament is everything, you know, and this loss is just putting them further down in the standings, and it's something that they really need to work on going into this Indiana State series.
Yeah, no, dropped them down to 5th. They were in 4th. The good news for Bradley, though, is that Loyola Chicago does still have 2 games remaining against both Missouri State and Illinois State, so a chance for them to at least maybe move up 1 spot if they can take care of business against Indiana State this weekend. But yeah, no, Ben mentioned it. The positioning is everything. You want to avoid playing as many good teams before you get to the championship as they can. So if Bradley can position themselves and maybe that 3 or 4 seed, move up a couple spots, I think they're going to be in very good shape.
And Brock just mentioned a very good point as we look now into the Valley itself. Loyola has Missouri State this weekend. Now, we've seen Loyola here at Bradley, a very strong defensive team, and we all know Missouri State, the offensive powerhouse in the MVC that they are. Brock, we'll start with you. Big series for Loyola coming up.
Yeah, no, Loyola Chicago has easily been the best defensive team in the Valley this season, holding teams to just under 56 points per game since conference play has started, so they are very stingy on defense. But when it comes down to it, Missouri State just has, I think they have too much firepower on offense. Jasmine Franklin on the inside, Bryce Caleb on the outside. Very, very good dynamic duo down there. And I think Jasmine Franklin is gonna feast on the inside this weekend against Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, like Brock said, you know, Loyola is easily the best defense in the Missouri Valley this season, but it's really hard to outscore teams like Missouri State or Drake when you know you have 4 players that are only your 4 top scorers are only averaging about 8 to 10 points a game. It's not going to cut it against a team like Missouri State. Bryce Caleb had another amazing game this week against Bradley, or last week against Bradley, where she scored 17 points. And she's honestly my pick for Missouri Valley Player of the Year right now.
And we'll get back to Player of the Week picks in a minute. Ben made a good point. Bryce Calip is playing very great. But one more game I want to look at in this Valley series of Ben, of course. We'll come back to you on this one. SIU and Valpo. battle of, the middle of the pack here in the MVC. What are you looking for in this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a really good series. Obviously, like you said, both teams are in the middle of the pack, really trying to prove that they can maybe take a step up before the conference tournament starts. Obviously, SIU has to try to stop Carrie Wyman. She's been playing some really nice basketball this season. And on the other side, Valparaiso really needs to try to shut down Mackenzie Sylvie.
Yeah, so Valpo coming off of a very buzzer-beating victory against Loyola Chicago. Shea Frederick gets to the rim, lays it in. That's very much a momentum shifting win. When you're not sure you're going to win and then you steal it there at the buzzer. So I think that's very big for them, getting some confidence. But I think the key to this one is, SIU has been playing the last 7 games without Abby Brockmeyer. That's a 14-point per game score right there, and great size and length inside. I think they've really been hit hard by COVID this season. Sylvie and Brockmeyer at the beginning of the year had COVID issues. Now Brockmeyer's out again, so they just really haven't been able to stay healthy this year. So I think that's going to be the difference maker. If Brockmeyer's not here this weekend, I think Valparaiso is going to take advantage of that and pick up 2 very important wins this weekend.
Now, quite possibly, this is the tightest Missouri Valley standings that we've seen entering, the end of the conference or the end of the season towards the conference tournament that we've seen in quite a few years. And, that's going to shape up for a very good Hoops in the Heartland tournament that's coming up in a few weeks. And going off of that, we've seen a lot of good players then who are trying to propel their teams farther into this Missouri Valley Conference to sort of gain a seed as they enter the Hoops in the Heartland tournament. And Brock, we'll start with you. Player of the week this week, who stood out to you?
I went with Drake's Graceburg. Even though they went 0-2 against a very tough Illinois State team, that's just one of those things. Illinois State. A lot of people. Drake's that big powerhouse. Illinois State comes there, beats Drake. 2 very impressive wins for Illinois State. But Graceburg in those 2 losses was very impressive. Had 16 points and 6 rebounds in the first game. 22 and 7 in the second game. Really showcased her overall game. Did it from inside, the mid-range, and the three-point range. And I really think she showed that she's a very underrated passer. 4 assists in that second game, really setting up her teammates nicely. And I think a player to watch for Drake down the stretch.
Yeah, and my pick for this week was Adrian Folks. For Indiana State, in their last game against Evansville, she had 29 points, 13 rebounds, a block, and 2 steals. While those 2 teams are obviously last in the conference right now, Adrian Folks is definitely showing that Indiana State can play and that they could be a threat in the tournament. And
that type of performance is huge coming up. I mentioned it plenty of times, Hoops in the Heartland tournament, but Folks is going to be huge for Indiana State because, they play Bradley this weekend. And so as a result, let's take a look at that series that's upcoming. Ben, we'll start with you. What are you looking for in this Bradley-Indiana State series?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good series. Bradley's really going to need to really try to shut down Jemima McChristine and, as I said earlier, Adrian Folks, both big men that can really rebound the ball and score down low, something that Bradley will really need to look at when they're playing them.
Yeah, no, if Indiana State can rebound the ball well, they're going to give Bradley a lot of trouble. That's been a thing. That's been a problem with Bradley all season when they give up a lot of rebounds and they get dominated on the glass. It's hard for them to win games. But I think what it comes down to for Bradley, Indiana State is quite simply one of the worst defensive teams in the Valley, only scoring about 62 points per game while giving up 74, allowing teams to shoot 35% from 3 and 46% from 2. Bradley's just really they have to do a good job of taking open shots, making the extra pass, not getting greedy, not taking contested shots because they're going to get open looks. They just got to knock them down, get to the rim, and once Bradley starts knocking down those shots, with the three-point shooters, the Gabby Hawks, the Laisha Petrie's, the driving lanes are going to open up, and that's going to get the rest of the team involved and going to get this team flowing.
And if you're Bradley, you're a slumping offense. This is the type of defense you want to play, ending the season. Brock, we'll start with you. Your keys to the series this week against Indiana State.
I just think that Bradley needs to do a very good job. They need to clean the glass. They cannot let Indiana State get any momentum, get them feeling good at the beginning of the game, getting easy points on the offensive glass. And I think for Bradley, the big thing is they need to just cut down on the fouls. They need to stop getting those fouls under the basket 90 feet away. Let them come down, set up their defense. If you got to foul that way, but don't just pick up a cheap foul where it's your second one and you have to go to the bench and then the entire rhythm for the rest of the half thrown off. I think Bradley just needs to play smart in this game, stick within their system, box out, and keep them off the glass, and then just cut down on the fouls.
Yeah, I agree with Brock. I think rebounds are going to be very important in this game. The 2 players we mentioned earlier are 2 of some of the best rebounders in the conference this season. At the same time, they also need to take care of the ball. Indiana State is 3rd in steals, and 4 of their players are averaging at least a steal a game. So just make sure they need to make sure they're moving the ball, taking care of the ball, and find shooters open, because once they find shooters open, they will score against this team.
You know, Indiana State, too, the stat that I think sticks out to me the most is they're only averaging as a team 12.5 assists per game, so they're really not generating a lot of easy open looks off their passes. It's a lot of isolation basketball, and their passes aren't really leading to any score, so things are being very difficult for Indiana State right now. So I think Bradley has to make sure they just cannot allow easy open baskets and runouts for layups to get them confidence, because once they start getting confidence and start making shots, anything can happen in this league.
I mean, you're right. Moving the ball is key, especially on offense. A stagnant offense isn't going to get much going to get to the rim. Ben, we'll start with you here, though. You were right last time on your pick to click. You picked Nyjah White, and she went off in that game against UNI. So, Ben, who are you looking at this series?
Yeah, I'm looking at Gabby Hawk for this series. As Brock mentioned earlier, Indiana State is really bad at limiting the three-pointers, and obviously Gabby Hawk excels at that. Second in three-point percentage this season. She had a big game against Indiana State. You know, shot 5 for 8 from three, and I think that she could do it again this week.
Yeah, my pick is point guard Tatum Canning. She hasn't been playing her best basketball as of late. Only had 3 points in the second game against Missouri State that Bradley lost, and then only had 7 points last night against Illinois State, 6 of which came in the first half, and was on 2 of 9 shooting. So not playing her best basketball right now, but when she is engaged and locked in and playing well for this Bradley team, she's such a great weapon. I mean, she led the team last year in three-point percentage at 43%, so she's a sniper out there. Great distributor of the basketball, averaging around 3 assists per game this year. Gets involved in the glass, three rebounds too. So I think when she's playing her game, knocking down shots, getting to the rim, facilitating for her teammates, this Bradley offense just flows a lot better. And when she's playing well and engaged, this Bradley team is just a lot better.
You know, Ben found something with Nyjah White. That's my pick to click, because if you look at it, Bradley's lost 4 of their last 5. In the one game that they won, Nyjah White went off for career high in points. I think if she can both control offensively and clean the glass, rebounds, I mean, you said is huge. If she could do both of that for the Braves this series, I think they'll be able to take home a series win against Indiana State. But with that being said, guys, your final thoughts now on this upcoming series against Indiana State. Yeah,
I think as long as Bradley cleans the boards and makes smart passes and limits their turnovers, I think that this will be a winning series for Bradley.
Yeah, you know, I agree with Ben. You know, I think seeing Bradley get some scoring from their bench against Illinois State certainly helped. That's been an area that's been a little bit inconsistent for them this year. Outside of Chloe Rice and Mari Petrie, you're not really 100% sure what you're going to get out of that Bradley bench. But seeing, you know, TT Danzo and Isis Fitch, the freshmen, make impacts, they're going to have to play big. They're big man. They're going to have to come in when they do get those minutes and make sure that they box out and limit their turnovers and play hard and just keep that energy, effort, and have no drop-off from the starters to the bench.
You heard it here. Bradley hosting Indiana State upcoming this weekend. Senior weekend, actually, for the Bradley Braves, as they'll say goodbye to a few key seniors on this team who they'll miss dearly, but looking to get a win this weekend against Indiana State. For Ben Line Newman, Brock Stoller, Max Kriegshauser behind the camera, our executive producer Tim Rushi, I'm Cameron Irwin. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.